Have you ever pondered about the chilling rituals that involve bones and skulls, often associated with satanic practices? This is our point of departure today as we delve into an enigmatic corner of human history, steeped in mystique and taboo. Bone and skull satanic rituals, as chilling and as mysterious as they are, have been a part of human society for centuries, maybe even millennia. They've been whispered about in hushed tones, feared and misunderstood, and often relegated to the shadows of society's collective consciousness. Yet, they continue to intrigue us, drawing us in with their dark allure. These practices, far from being static, have evolved significantly over time, reflecting the changing beliefs, fears, and curiosities of the societies that birthed them. They are a mirror, in a way, reflecting the darkest aspects of our human nature. Join us as we embark on this intriguing journey through time, exploring the evolution of bone and skull satanic rituals. Our journey begins in the ancient world, where the first known instances of these rituals were recorded. From the earliest chapters of human history, we find that bone and skull rituals held a significant place in a myriad of cultures across the globe. In these primitive societies, bones were revered, not reviled, viewed as the very essence of life and death, strength and vulnerability. The ancient Celts, for instance, believed that the head was the seat of the soul, and as such, they would often display the skulls of their enemies, not out of morbid fascination, but as a sign of respect and a testament to their bravery. Similarly, in the indigenous cultures of the Americas, bones were used in rituals to communicate with ancestors, to seek their wisdom and guidance. In the vast deserts of Egypt, the grandeur of the pharaohs was immortalized not just through colossal pyramids, but also through intricate burial rites that often involved the preservation of the skull. This was done in the belief that it would ensure their safe passage to the afterlife. In the heart of Africa, the tribes held ceremonies involving the use of bones, sometimes from their own members, as a rite of passage. This was not seen as a thing of horror or fear, but a solemn and sacred tradition, a celebration of life as much as it was an acknowledgement of death. Yet let's not overlook the cultures of the Far East, where skull and bone rituals took on a more philosophical tone. The Buddhists used the imagery of skulls in their meditations as a reminder of the transience of life and the inevitability of death. These diverse cultural practices highlight that the use of bones and skulls in rituals was not always associated with evil or satanic practices as we might think today. They were symbols of reverence, respect, and remembrance, a testament to the cyclical nature of life and death. From these ancient roots, bone and skull rituals began to take on a darker connotation, evolving into what we now associate with satanic practices. As we delve deeper, we'll see how these practices transformed over time, and how they were twisted and distorted by the dark corners of human imagination. As we move into the Dark Ages, these rituals took on a more sinister hue. The Dark Ages, a period of intellectual darkness and economic regression that lasted from the 6th to the 14th century, saw a dramatic shift in the perception of bone and skull rituals. The Church, the dominant institution of the time, positioned itself as the moral compass of society. It began to associate these rituals, once seen as a means of connecting with the spiritual realm or honoring ancestors, with satanic practices and witchcraft. This was a time of fear and superstition, and the Church used these rituals as a tool to instill fear and maintain control over the populace. Bone and skull rituals became symbols of evil and were used to mark outcasts, rebels, and those accused of witchcraft. They were no longer just spiritual practices, but tools of intimidation. The Church, in its quest for control, painted these rituals in dark and terrifying colors, associating them with devil worship and the summoning of malevolent spirits. While in the ancient times, these rituals were conducted in the open, during the Dark Ages, they were driven underground. Practitioners were forced to perform these rituals in secret to avoid being branded as heretics or witches. The fear of persecution and the threat of death loomed over those who dared to continue these practices. The Church's influence was so profound that it changed the narrative of these rituals completely. The reverence and respect once associated with bone and skull rituals were replaced with fear and revulsion. They became symbols of the forbidden, the taboo, and the unholy. Yet in spite of this, the rituals persisted. They evolved, changed, and adapted, But they never disappeared. They lived on in the shadows, waiting for a time when they could once again be brought into the light. This era marked a significant shift in the perception and usage of bone and skull rituals, setting the stage for the modern understanding of these practices. Even today, the echoes of the Dark Ages can be heard in our collective consciousness, shaping our views on these ancient rituals. In the modern world, bone and skull satanic rituals have taken on a life of their own. These practices, steeped in tradition and mystery, have evolved significantly over the centuries, adapting to our ever-changing societal norms and beliefs. In today's interpretation, these rituals are often associated with satanic cults and practices. This association is largely a product of popular culture and media, which have played a significant role in shaping the perception of these rituals. Films, television shows, and novels often depict these practices as dark, sinister, and linked to the occult. This portrayal, though not entirely accurate, has undeniably contributed to the mystique and intrigue surrounding these rituals. In reality, the modern practice of bone and skull rituals varies greatly depending on the cultural and regional context. In some parts of the world, these rituals are still practiced as part of religious ceremonies, ancestral worship, or rites of passage. Here, the use of bones and skulls is symbolic, representing a connection to the spiritual world, a celebration of life and death, or a tribute to ancestors. However, it's also true that these rituals have found a place in certain underground subcultures, where they are used as part of satanic or occult practices. These groups, often shrouded in secrecy, utilize these rituals as a means of challenging societal norms, exploring the taboo, or seeking a deeper understanding of life and death. One must remember that the interpretation of these rituals is subjective and heavily influenced by personal beliefs, cultural background, and societal norms. What may appear dark and disturbing to some may hold deep spiritual significance to others. It's also worth noting that these rituals, as with any religious or spiritual practice, can be misused or distorted by individuals with malicious intent. This, however, should not overshadow the rich cultural and historical significance of these practices. While these practices may seem disturbing to many, they remain a fascinating part of our history, providing a glimpse into the darker side of human nature. Regardless of how they are interpreted or practiced, the bone and skull rituals continue to captivate us, serving as a stark reminder of our mortality and our enduring fascination with the unknown. From ancient rites to modern cult practices, the journey of bone and skull satanic rituals is indeed an intriguing one. We've traced the path from the earliest civilizations, where bones and skulls were used in ritualistic practices, often as symbols of mortality and the divine. These practices evolved through the Dark Ages, marked by secrecy and fear, often misunderstood and demonized by the broader society. In the modern age, we've seen a resurgence of these rituals, not as acts of evil, but as expressions of faith, however unconventional. Today, they serve as a testament to the enduring human fascination with the unknown, the macabre, and the metaphysical. This journey has shed light on the dichotomy of fear and fascination that these rituals inspire. As we conclude this journey, it's clear that while these rituals may be shrouded in darkness, they offer a unique perspective on the diverse and complex nature of human belief systems.